I sit at the table eating a bowl of nothing.
Why should I learn the Heimlich maneuver? I'm not planning on choking.
In the filming room.
So it has come to my attention, because I like to melt my brain by looking at Instagram comment sections, that there are some pole dancers who think they are better than other pole dancers because they don't use a mat when they train. And so begins a 15-minute rant. If you're new to my channel, you may have missed all the different times that I've harped on the fact that safety is so important when you're pole dancing. Here are a few of those times now.
I highly recommend getting yourself a pole-specific mat. Get one that goes all the way around the pole. I don't want to see any of you with like a little yoga mat on each side of the pole with a bunch of blank space right here. The most important accessory is your pole mat. I will say it again, get a pole mat. One that goes all the way around the pole, not a couple of pillows haphazardly thrown around or a yoga mat on either side. A specific pole mat with a hole in the center where the pole goes, please and thank you. But I'm not down to do this trick without a mat below me. Is the safety equipment obvious, plentiful, and in good shape? If you're in the pole room, you better see a stack of real pole mats, not yoga mats. This is also an example of why you should always use a mat.
I slip from my pose and land heavily on the mat.
And if you're not new here, you can stand to hear it again. Safety is a key element of pole dancing. Yeah, it's not glamorous or sexy to talk about safety in the aerial arts, but holy shit, one time I fell directly on my neck from 4 feet up in the air on an aerial silk, and if there hadn't been a mat below me, I would have certainly been paralyzed for the rest of my life, so I kind of have a thing about it. Yes, there are tons of moves that a mat would just get in the way of. I'm not saying you have to drag out the mat every time you want to do a little chair spin like I'm showing on the screen here. And in fact, you probably couldn't do a lot of low flow or floor work stuff with the mat out. Here I am struggling to get up from a sexy lunge with the mat below me. So let me be clear. There is quite a bit of it depends on the person and the context at play in this video. Some of you have posted yourself doing really long inversion-heavy combos from like 10 feet up on your studio poles, and as far as I know, you're still alive. And some people have been doing pole for years and are professionally trained. You don't get mats if you go to a competition and you're expected to do a full routine on spin and static. Strippers don't typically get mats below them when they're performing. So some people can absolutely pole dance without a mat. But can and should are two different things. Let's look at the comments that first inspired this video, taken from the comment section on Pole Lols on Instagram, which posts compilations of people falling from, knocking down, and generally just committing lols on their poles. I think I've only ever used a crash mat once in my pole life. Well, I will only use crash mats if I'm really high up on the pole or do a crazy new trick or flip that still feels unsafe and there's no teacher to spot me. Shrug emoji. I'm firmly in the camp of more likely to fall if there's a crash mat under me. It's a mental thing, lol. I have students who deliberately just drop themselves down because they know the crash mat will save them, haha. They can make us lazy sometimes. Crying laughing emoji. I feel like mats give a false sense of security and make people try things they aren't ready for. I don't use a mat because I feel like if I need a mat, I'm not ready for that trick yet. Because so many people are referring to crash mats. They can be great when trying a new scary or dangerous trick, but actually you shouldn't be using them as often. It makes the students depend on them and be sloppy because they know it will always going to catch them, laughing and sweating emoji. Before I break all that down, let me ask that you please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you. Let's talk. So let's examine the common arguments. I have students who deliberately just drop themselves down because they know the crash mat will save them. They can make us lazy sometimes. And it makes the students depend on them and be sloppy because they know it will always catch them. Basically, they're saying, having a mat below you will just allow you to exit the trick lazily and keep you from learning the safe dismount. This reminds me of the time that I kept falling out of my outside leg hang. Here's a clip of that, because frankly, my body was just not ready to be doing that move yet, and my instructor told me that if I kept flapping out, she was going to take my mat away. In my mind, that's totally counterintuitive, because if I can't do a move safely while using safety equipment, doesn't that mean the move is really not that safe for me to be doing and I probably need a little bit more help? Maybe I've got this all wrong. I'm not an instructor, so I don't actually know if these little mind games work, if taking away someone's safety net forces them to learn to fly faster. Like this comment. I'm firmly in the camp of more likely to fall if there's a crash mat under me. It's a mental thing, lol. Yes. Sometimes when I'm coming out of an inside leg hang, like I'm showing on screen now, I will just allow myself to slide on down to the mat instead of figuring out a more graceful exit option because I know the mat is there. And is that a problem? Here's my sticking point with this argument. When someone says, well, you'll just use a mat instead of exiting properly, So, am I being graded? Yes, of course, it's great to learn the proper exit out of a move, but you know when I'm able to actually do that? After I've flopped out of the move onto my mat about 100 times. Here are a bunch of clips of me flopping. Having safety equipment underneath me as I puzzle out which hand goes where, which tiny muscle squeezes when, how much to slide, when to let go, all that stuff is absolutely essential to me. I'll get around to learning the proper exit when I've figured out the first 20 improper exits. And you know what? Even then, I'll still probably have my mat underneath me. Take a look at this clip of me learning how to do the chopstick split. I'm not very high off the ground, but my grip slips and I plunge knee first onto the mat. If the mat wasn't there, I would have slammed my kneecap straight into the wood floor. The argument, using a mat means you'll rely on the mat, just doesn't seem logical to me, because if anyone else is using safety equipment, take construction workers wearing hard hats. We don't go,
Look at those construction workers. They're just being lazy and relying on their hard hats.
because yes, they are, because the hats make them safer. This comment says, I hate mats. I feel like I can't make some things with it. At the same time, I think I never fall before at the studio. If I don't feel so sure, I won't do it. But even old familiar moves can end in disaster because, let's be honest, even when we think we're totally in control, the pole is just going to show up to humble us. How many times have I done a jade split now? A whole bunch, but sometimes my shorts happen to be a little bit longer than I thought they were and they catch the pole and I slide down, or my hands sweated through my dry hands and I didn't realize, or my leg twitches in a way it hasn't done before, or a butterfly 1,000 years in the past flapped its wings and now here I am crumpled on the mat again. In the pole laws comment section, an instructor, I think, responded to someone's question, why don't studios use mats, with, to learn that sometimes it's okay to fall, I agree that they're useful for some dangerous moves, but you can't always rely on, I'm going to release all my hands and hooks and the mat is going to save me while trying the basics. When my students are afraid to try something scary, I encourage them to use mats, but other times I just teach them that a fall is not necessarily a bad fall, and falling can be helpful to understand that if things go wrong, they can still try again with no hard consequence. But like, there is hard consequence if you fall onto the floor. It's the floor. My point is, pole dancing is so extremely unpredictable and a slip can happen at any moment, so wouldn't you rather slip onto a mat than onto the hard floor? This is so weird. I had a crush on a guy named Matt in high school, so me saying Matt over and over in a loving tone is like tripping me out a little bit. The next argument. If you have a mat underneath you, that means you're not ready for the move yet. From such comments as, I feel like mats give a false sense of security and make people try things they aren't ready for. I don't use a mat because I feel like if I need a mat, I'm not ready for that trick yet. I do agree that the pole world is full of folks trying moves that are far above their skill and strength level, probably because they're really influenced by social media and all of the hashtag beginner tricks out there that are very much not hashtag beginner. However, I disagree with the very notion that bringing the mat out is an indication that you are not ready for that move. To me, bringing the mat out means that I am ready for the move to give it my customary first 100 tries. Like I said, I'm gonna do the move wrong a whole bunch of times way before I ever figure out how to do it right. If I'm still puzzling out the entrance, I'm probably not thinking too hard about the exit yet. So I really want that mat below me while I'm struggling my way through. To me, the phrase false sense of security is so weird when applied to a super complicated, dangerous sport like pole dancing or any of the other aerial arts, since we know it's not actually false. A mat is a tangible, actual thing that you can use to make it less likely that you're going to get injured. And I just mentioned aerial arts in general, so let's go ahead and look beyond pole for a second. In my aerial arts journey, it has been pole alone that has given me a chance to go matless. At a studio where I've trained, their website specifically states that every silk, lyra, rope, and trapeze will have a mat underneath them at all times, or they are not to be used. Yes, if you're thinking, well, aren't silks typically way higher up in the ceiling than poles? You are correct, but I've trained on a 14-foot pole before, and do you know how tall 14 feet is? It's like 13 feet, but even more! I am singling out pole versus the other apparatuses for a reason, because this conflict doesn't really arise with anything but pole. Do flying trapeze artists go, you know what? I catch her ankles basically every time. I think we could do this without the net. I've never looked at a silks artist twirling in their wraps and gone,
Impressive, but this mat underneath them is like really distracting me.
you're never gonna walk into an aerial hoop class and hear the instructor say, great, you learned how to do the move over a mat. Now I'm gonna take it away so you can prove to me that you've really got it. A clip of me twirling on a silk outside over a mat. Even when I trained on my roommate's outdoor rig many eons ago, we had a thick mat that was a pain in the ass to drag around, but it was always there if we were using the rig for anything. As somebody else pointed out in the pole lols comments, I always throw a mat down if I'm working on something new off the floor, but I've also become very big on safety since I started teaching hoop because there's no sliding to the floor if you slip from that. Grimace emoji. Exactly! People who practice on other apparatuses probably aren't going to start bragging that they just did their silks routine over the hard floor without a mat underneath them because they're probably going to get laughed out of the aerial community. Let me just say it now, a mat takes nothing away from the trick that you're doing. It just means that I'm not going to be commenting, but where was the mat, when I see your video pop up on pole lols. After I'd gotten through a couple iterations of this script, I realized that I had been forgetting to think about strippers or performers who use the pole at their workplace, like a club. Here's a comment from the owner of the Pole Lols account giving his 2 cents. I have a theory. Pole originates from strip clubs. Back when it started in the clubs, the girls would have taught themselves, and I would assume, I might be wrong, that they didn't use crash mats. So when the first strippers took pole outside the club for classes, they probably didn't use crash mats. Again, it's just my theory. Yes, I'm pretty sure that strippers at work never get to use a mat underneath them, as someone in the comments so snarkily pointed out. Yes, because mats go on stage performances like the first clip. Why shouldn't they though? But anyway. So, strippers don't get a mat. They gotta figure out how to be sexy and strong and stay up on that pole so they can get their tips. So strippers probably never train with a mat because they probably never get an opportunity to actually use one. But I wish that they did because I remember that video, don't worry, I'm not gonna put the clip here, of the stripper falling off from the very top of the pole and then she sort of twerks her way off the stage in a state of absolute shock. You all know I love and support strippers. I'm just not sure that the argument works. If the first pole instructors were strippers and they didn't use mats, then none of us should be using mats. Sort of like,
The first cars didn't have seatbelts, so we shouldn't use seatbelts now.
and I'm just saying, the Superfly Honey website calls mats for home polers non-negotiable. Yeah, maybe I'm so strict about this because I'm almost exclusively a home poler. Let's look at another one of the arguments from the non-mat crowd. Using a mat is not the norm at my studio. Most of us get the teacher to spot us if it's a new trick or we're really not confident. Pretty much every time I'm on the pole, no one else is around, so if I fall and hurt myself, it's totally on me to crawl to my phone and call for help. I also don't have a spotter around me to help with any scary moves either. So you bet I'm gonna be relying on my sweet little mat. People at a studio might be able to get away without using a mat because there is a trained instructor, I hope, standing there right beside you when you're trying a scary new trick, I hope, and they know how to spot you, I hope. Should something go wrong, I hope it doesn't. Plus, there are other folks around who could call for help if something should happen. But do you know how to reduce the likelihood of something happening using a mat? I think some people have this idea that using a mat is somehow babying yourself, that pole is a dangerous sport meant to be done as dangerously as possible. Okay, I'm gonna baby myself then. I only have this one body, and if I mess it up trying a pole trick, that's probably curtains for my pole career. And I like to do other stuff too. Here's a clip of me playing bass, so if a pole injury totally ruined my life, I'd be pretty annoyed that I did not take safety precautions to avoid that. There are some tricks I've become comfortable doing without a mat underneath me in the 1.5 years that I've been pole dancing at home. I had to do an invert without a mat for my J-Lo video, but I didn't let my hands go for a crucifix. Here I am sliding to the ground in my silver swimsuit, pink lights flashing around me. I had to do a jade split for my Britney Spears circus freestyle, and that went fine. I'm spinning in an upside-down split, wearing my giant pleaser heels. But if ever I'm learning a new trick, revisiting one that I haven't said hello to in a long time, or even working on something that's more than one climb above the ground, it's me and my mat against the world. I guess my point is this. If you want to do your pole training without using a mat, okay, I'm not here to tell you you can't trust your own body and skill level, and maybe you are advancing faster by tricking your brain into never taking a tumble. But I'm a tumble taker, and I know this about myself, so I'm gonna keep tumbling into my mat, and I would ask that you just not make me feel bad about that. I really liked this person's comment about using mats. It's the one thing you can control. Why would you not use one frowning and crying emoji? This sport is so amazingly difficult. We do not need to be bragging about how we've only used a mat once, or mocking someone for asking why there wasn't a mat out during a performance, or especially shaming people for trying to make it a little tiny bit easier, when a mat doesn't even make it easier, it just makes the floor less hard. If you're someone who pole dances without a mat below you, maybe you can comment and tell me if it actually inspires you to stay up in the air longer, or share some of your tips and tricks for not falling off the pole. As for me, I'm gonna go hug my mat now. Bye!
The subscribe button appears on the right. A suggested video and playlist appear on the left.